Good evening, everyone. We are finalising the run sheet as we're still getting members of the public registered to be able to do their deputations, so we may be a few minutes late starting the briefing session. Thank you everyone for accommodating that delay. I declare the council members' agenda briefing session open at 6:07 p.m. Good evening, councillors, staff, ladies and gentlemen. The meeting today is being held on Wajak Noongar Budja, and I'd like to acknowledge and pay my respects to elders past, present and future. I thank all past, present members of the community that have supported the city to better understand and value Noongar culture within the city of Wanneroo. I now invite you to bow your heads in prayer. Lord, we thank you for blessing our city, our community and our council. Guide us to act fairly without fear or favour and with compassion, integrity, wisdom and honesty. May we show true leadership, be inclusive of all and guide all the city's people and many families to a prosperous future that all may share. We ask this in your name. Amen. Announcement. Please note that the audio-visual proceedings of tonight's briefing session will be live broadcast online, with the exception of matters discussed behind closed doors. The broadcast of the proceedings of the meeting can be accessed live and on demand through the City of Wanneroo YouTube channel. Item 1, attendances, as per the record. Tonight we have one request for electronic attendance from General Counsel Ms Vicky Coles. General Counsel, can you please make your declaration around confidentiality?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. In accordance with Section 14CA5, I, Vicky Coles, declare that I can maintain confidentiality during the closed parts of the meeting whilst attending this briefing session electronically.
Thank you, General Counsel. Item 2, apologies and leave of absence. I note that we have received apologies from Mayor Aitken, Councillor Smith and Councillor Bedworth. I also note that Councillor Moore is on parental leave. Are there any other apologies to note at this stage? No. Item 3, deputations. The rules of deputations are as follows. 1. Deputations must relate to a report on the current agenda briefing agenda. 2. A deputation is not to exceed 3 speakers in number and only those speakers may address the council members. 3. Speakers of a deputation will collectively have a maximum of up to 10 minutes to address the council members, unless an extension of time is granted. 4. A deputation is to be in the form of a statement and no debate or discussion on the matter is to occur. 5. Questions from council members relating to the subject matter should be reserved until the administration has presented on the relevant report during the meeting. However, a point of clarification by a council member on a specific statement may be permitted. I also note that later in the agenda at item 7, there is an opportunity for public question time, and for members of the gallery who are here this evening, I further note that you do have the opportunity to ask questions and make public statements at our ordinary council meeting, which will be held in 2 weeks' time on the Tuesday evening. Please be advised that the following deputations have been confirmed. The first is from Mr Tony Free of Burgess Design Group on the item 4.1 Draft Local Planning Strategy Carabooda. I invite Mr Free, if you're here, to come to the lectern. Please switch on the microphone and just state your name and your suburb for the record.
Good evening, Deputy Mayor, councillors and city staff. I'm Tony Free from the Burgess Design Group. We're based in East Perth. I'm here tonight, though, representing the owner of Lot 54 Emerald Drive, Mrs Burnett, who you will also hear from tonight. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge the work that's been undertaken by your staff in progressing the local planning strategy to this stage. It's an important piece of work and it's generally been well done. Lot 54 is shown within the draft planning strategy as being within the existing landscape enhancement zone. Our request is that Lot 54 be shown in the local planning strategy as rural residential. Our request is based on 3 key considerations. Firstly, the existing access to the lot, the potential future uses of the lot and the associated environmental impacts. Firstly, the existing access. The existing house on lot 54 is accessed and has been for many years from Emerald Drive. Emerald Drive ends in a cul-de-sac bulb at the southern boundary of lot 54. It is from here that the driveway to the house on lot 54 exists. You drive to the property today, you drive through the Emerald Rural Residential Estate. Lot 54 Emerald Drive is physically linked to the Rural Residential Estate to the south, and the future uses of Lot 54 are best suited to a rural residential area. In terms of potential future land uses of Lot 54, the draft local planning strategy states that within the landscape enhancement zone, the following uses would be appropriate: microbreweries, restaurants, reception centres. The potential traffic and noise generated from these uses are not compatible with the rural residential area of Emerald Drive, which will be directly impacted. The rural residential zone would allow for low-key tourist uses such as bed and breakfast, holiday house, holiday accommodation, all of which are suitable for a rural residential area. Thirdly, the impact on the environment. Lot 54 does not have a water licence, whereas I understand a number of the properties within the landscape enhancement zone do. A water licence is not required for the rural residential land uses, resulting in no adverse impact on the environment. Some of the more intensive land uses previously highlighted as being encouraged within the landscape enhancement zone are likely to generate the need for an allocation of groundwater and thus resulting in environmental impacts. In summary, based on the existing access to Lot 54 being through the rural residential estate, the potential future use of Lot 54 under the landscape enhancement zone and the impacts of those uses on the rural residential estate and the associated environmental impacts, the most appropriate course of action is for Lot 54 Emerald Drive to be included in the rural residential zone under the local planning strategy. As such, it's requested that Council include in the Council resolution the following: that Lot 54 Emerald Drive be included in the rural residential classification under the local planning strategy, and the strategy be modified to reflect this change. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mr Free. Are there any points of clarification on the deputation from council members, noting that questions will occur when the report is presented by administration? No, therefore we'll progress. Thank you for that. The second deputation that has been received on the same item, being 4.1 Draft Local Planning Strategy Carabooda, is from Ms Judy Burnett. Ms Burnett, could you please come forward and state your name and suburb for the record?
Hello, my name's Judy Burnett of Carabooda. Just like to apologise in advance because I am a lot nervous, and I've written down everything I'm going to say. I appreciate the opportunity to speak on the matter and understand that Council have a full schedule of matters to consider tonight, and that my matter is tiny in the scheme of that, but not to me. My family have lived on the property for over 30 years and do so because we love the lifestyle that this small bush area provides. Many of the trees on the land are over 500 years old, and I'm very proud that I've not cut down a single tree since purchasing the property. Currently, the land on all sides of mine is used for residential purposes. A major issue that's not addressed by administration comments is the possibility of securing a strategic fire break from Bernard Road to Emerald Drive and Safari Place that I've offered at no cost to Council, simply by making this zoning change. Currently, Emerald Valley Estate and Safari Place residents only have one fire escape in and out. This was raised as an issue by Council over 15 years ago, and nothing's changed, despite recommendations from your own fire officers. During a bushfire on Bernard Road this year, my land was used by Bernard Road residents with four-wheel drives as an escape route to Emerald Valley Drive. I offer this route as an emergency access but any future owners may not. I'm confused as to why my proposal offering to help save lives has not been brought to the attention of Council, but I'm sure that the existing residents feel that this is a major consideration for Council and that further investigation might be needed here. I believe landscape enhancement zoning land uses are not suitable for this piece of land and do not best provide protection, preservation and value of the Chewett Forest here. The unique tourism value of this land is the forest, not a restaurant, a reception centre, a cafe or the like. I'm at the end of the cul-de-sac adjoining Emerald Valley Estate, comprising 30 properties. These people have spent their life savings invested in their homes and have moved here to escape the rat race and undertake a special way of life. I'm getting older and may need to eventually downsize. A new owner could buy for tourist development. If they were to build a restaurant or a microbrewery, this could result in an excess of 1,000 vehicles a day using the cul-de-sac, with delivery trucks, staff vehicles, buses and other transport services in addition. This could be from 10 a.m. to after midnight, creating a conflict with the existing residents and their quiet lifestyle. A business would need to clear trees for their buildings, car parking, landscaping, etc. They'd need to get a water licence, and I'm aligned with Coogee Springs, which has been identified as a water-sensitive location. The first consideration of any business person is not the landscape enhancement, it's the bottom dollar. In this example, Council would find it difficult to reject those sorts of proposals as it's an accepted land use for landscape enhancement zoning. I believe that landscape enhancement zoning has the possibilities for unworkable land use conflicts that you can avoid now, and that Council has an obligation to the existing landowners in the area to maintain the amenity and quiet enjoyment of their lifestyle and the conservation of the Chewett Forest. My question to Council is, what is the downside of moving my land out of the zone and adding it to the existing border of the rural residential zone of Emerald Valley Estate? I know the upside is a strategic buy break which can save lives, no future conflicts with local residents, ratepayers, coming from the traffic, the noise and the destruction of the amenity, and conservation of the land. Good planning and management should avoid land use conflicts. Councillors, you have the opportunity to fix it now. Don't leave it for future councillors to clean up the mess, if that's even possible after lives or the Chewett Forest are lost. Thank you. Is there any questions?
Thank you, Ms Burnett, and there was certainly no reason to be nervous. You're most welcome here. This is the People's Chamber, so it belongs to all residents. Are there any questions or points of clarification from council members on this deputation? No, therefore we'll progress. Thank you very much, Ms Burnett. The third deputation from Mr Tony Free, again this time on draft local planning strategy specifically in relation to Kingsway. Mr Free.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, councillors and city staff for the opportunity to make this deputation on the local planning strategy, item 4.1. Again, I'd just like to repeat acknowledge the work undertaken by your staff in progressing the planning strategy to this stage. In this deputation, I'm representing various landowners that are located to the north of the Kingsway Shopping Centre, within the area bounded by the northern boundary of the shopping centre, Wanneroo Road to the west, Kingsway to the north, and the Kingsway Recreation Reserve to the east. This area is located within a 400-metre, 5-minute walkable catchment of the shopping centre. The purpose of this deputation is to request that the subject land that I just outlined, which is within the 400-metre walkable catchment of the shopping centre, be shown as R60 residential under the local planning strategy. The subject land is not separated from the shopping centre by a major road such as Hepburn Avenue. Moreover, it has direct access via Old Trafford Avenue. The subject land benefits from the direct and close proximity to the Kingsway Shopping Centre. It abuts the public open space reserve to the east and the high frequency public transport routes that are available along Wanneroo Road. The planning strategy provides ample justification for infill in this location, as it has the potential to provide accommodation for an ageing population, accommodation needs for a growing number of single-person households, to deal with the general population growth within Wanneroo, and helping to meet the state government infill growth targets. On page 102 of your online version of your agenda, which is page 76 of the local planning strategy, there's a page there, 10.6, which deals with the Kingsway Shopping Centre. Action B at the bottom of that page refers to undertaking an investigation into the capacity of the existing infrastructure and utilities to accommodate increased densities. And it's acknowledged that this is proposed to be a short-term action, which sounds quite promising. However, I would like to point out that the local planning strategy has some 50 short-term actions. I've counted 51. I think there's an opportunity to reduce the short-term actions down to 50 from 51. The local planning strategy provides council with the opportunity to look to the future and put in place what an appropriate density is to serve the community into the future. I suspect that there's general agreement that the land in question should be a higher density than the current R25, and that the local planning strategy provides council with the opportunity to commence that process. By incorporating the R60 into the strategy, we commence the process of delivering wider choice of housing options for the community, and we're putting in place opportunities for landowners to realise better and more appropriate urban outcomes over time. The redevelopment of this area as R60 will occur over many years. The impediment to redevelopment in this location, in my assessment, is very unlikely to be due to infrastructure limitations. Market conditions are more likely to have a delaying impact. I encourage council to look to the future and give the subject land, which is ideally suited for residential R60 development, and make that call this month and start the process by resolving the following: that the land bounded by the northern boundary of the shopping centre, Wanneroo Road to the west, Kingsway to the north, and the Kingsway Reserve to the east, be included as residential R60 within the local planning strategy, and the strategy be modified to reflect that change. Thank you. Happy to take any points of clarification.
Thank you, Mr. Free. Are there any points of clarification on this particular deputation? No. Thank you very much, Mr. Free. Deputation number 4, Mr. Mark Zagar, on number 4.1, Draft Local Planning Strategy, Lake Nowgup. Mr. Zagar, please come to the lectern and say your name and suburb for the record. And I note that you have provided the city with an attachment and some slides, and I confirm that's been distributed to elected members who have access to that. Mr. Zagar, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. Thank you, Council and Administration. And again, thanks for the excellent work so far on the local planning strategy. Yes, hopefully you do have those. I was hoping to do a PowerPoint slide presentation, so hopefully you have them in front of you, because what I'm about to say relates to the slides. Thank you. So if we could go through them together, slide 1. Obviously, this is in response to the local planning strategy and the new development of the Carrabuda urban precinct that has really changed what we need to consider for the area for the best outcome for the community. So Lake Nowgup is a tremendous asset to the city. It could be the next Lake Joondalup. And what would the city of Wanneroo be without Lake Joondalup? Indeed, what would Joondalup City be without Lake Joondalup? It'd be another average suburb. So that's how valuable a natural asset this is to the community. It's too good an opportunity to waste, and I would argue that it's a better opportunity than East Wanneroo. So slide 2. It is extremely rare. There are only 2 permanent lakes left in this northern area, Lake Joondalup and Lake Nowgup. As you know, for example, Lake Loch McNess in Yanchep National Park is a shadow of its former self. We're very lucky to have this in our area. It's one of the few permanent lakes. It's a fantastic asset for the city of Wanneroo to enjoy, but currently there is no access. Nobody enjoys it except the few of us who happen to be lucky to live there. It also has a nature reserve, natural bush, and it could be an incredible centrepiece for the Carrabuda urban precinct and also the northern suburbs, with access from Romeo Road and the future Lucan Drive. Indeed, it could be a fantastic centrepiece for the whole northern suburbs to enjoy. Nature play has become a big focus of successfully master planned communities, and this is a fantastic opportunity for that, for our next generation of kids. So it really does offer a very unique opportunity for nature-focused lifestyle recreation and a tourism precinct for the city to enjoy. So slide 3 shows you just how close it is to transport routes. And it's remarkable that this area hasn't been opened up and had access to the wider community. As you can see, we're only 800 metres from the freeway, from Metronet, and from the booming Northern Corridor infrastructure. Obviously, the infrastructure includes transport routes, shops, schools, and of course the beach. So where else in the Perth metropolitan area, could you have these fantastic assets for the community to enjoy so close to each other? Of course, it's a huge return on investment, on infrastructure and investment, to not only the city of Wanneroo, but to the state. And it would slow urban sprawl northwards and would be a natural infill to the east of the freeway and Metronet. Where else in the Perth metropolitan area don't you have urban infill 800 metres east of the freeway and Metronet? Nowhere. So it's a very logical thing to do, and obviously has enormous community benefits and economic benefits. Slide 4 is the City of Wanneroo bush to beach positioning. And as this aerial photograph shows, a proposed road and walk trail would link communities to the west, Brighton, Butler, Eden Beach, Alara, Mindarie, Alkimos, to Lake Nowgup and the old growth Chewett Forest Reserve that is on the west side of Lake Nowgup, which is a fantastic asset that is just lying underutilised. Bike and walk trails could connect to the Abaroo Heritage Trail, a Lake Nowgup open space, the Yalonga Regional Park and Yanchep National Park. So all these together would promote not only connectivity, but healthy, active lifestyle for residents, bringing families and kids closer to nature. Slide 5, sustainable urban planning, could really create a fantastic community at Lake Nowgup and enhance the Carrabuda urban precinct. You could have a range of home sites and lifestyles, countryside blocks, lake view, contemporary terrace-style housing, such as is proposed at East Wanneroo and occurs at Lake Joondalup, multi-generational living and affordable lifestyle blocks. So it's a fantastic opportunity for the community to live and enjoy the area. Slide 6. Future generations will be able to enjoy an outdoors lifestyle and connect with nature. And many, many studies have shown that connecting with nature has marked improvements to physical and mental health. Certainly, I can attest for that growing up there as a kid. Just sort of took it for granted, but it certainly is a massive benefit to kids growing up and their, what they carry forward for the rest of their life. It's studies have shown that it reduces antisocial behaviour, and it actually nurtures custodianship of nature and the lake and the bush, and certainly that's why we're here today, is to make sure this area is not neglected and it is in fact enhanced. I grew up living there as a kid. 1967, our family moved there, and it's a fantastic experience, canoeing in the lake, building cubby houses, bushwalking, and a bit like a Huckleberry Finn kind of adventure every day. So it'd be wonderful for the wider community to share these experiences with future generations. Slide 7. It is the deepest permanent lake left. It's deeper than Lake Joondalup. Naugup is the Noongar name meaning place of sweet water. So it actually is a fantastic, significant lake. And as you know, over the years, I've been here advocating for a better future for this area. And over the years, community, council, and various state governments have agreed to protect and enhance the area. But this is really our first opportunity to make that happen. Now is our opportunity, and none of us are getting any younger, so it'd be great to seize this opportunity. Slide 8. Rural zoning is a bit of an obsolete legacy zoning for this area. The lots to the west are small lots, and they were legacy lots that were carved up in the 1950s and 60s when you could make $1 out of growing tomatoes and vegetables on 10 or 20 acres, such as our family farm, and that's no longer the case. Large economies of scale, modern agriculture with efficient technology and a significant investment is needed to keep costs down to the consumer for food. So these small legacy farms, as we've known, are becoming less and less productive, and less lots are actually productive. A lot of them have become derelict or de facto rural lifestyle, and a lot of the rural lifestyle people living, they can't manage 10, 20 acres. It's not feasible, whereas somewhere like Emerald Valley, 5 acres or less is manageable. On top of that, we've got water licence cuts. I just had a meeting with DEWA today, and they are not budging. They're going to cut my water licence. And what that means for a small farm is you cannot absorb the costs, and these farms will become unviable. We are the pioneering families of Wanneroo. As I said, my family's been here since 1967. There are others in the same situation. So it's a very sensible planning solution to a problem, and it will create many benefits. Obviously, relocating farming to more suitable areas towards Gingin and Pearce and the proposed future agricultural district in State Forest 65 makes perfect sense. It's the successful history of metropolitan agriculture. We used to have farms on St George's Terrace, and as you all know, Osborne Park and Darch and the rest of it. And then some of our biggest farms in Carabooda at the moment are the result of bigger, better farms from relocating from areas that have become urban in East Wanneroo, for example, and Osborne Park. So that's the only way really to modernise and progress metropolitan agriculture.
Mr. Zagar, that is 10 minutes. I'd like to grant you 5 minutes extension to be able to keep going with your deputation.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. I appreciate that. There's only, I think, 2 more slides to go. Slide 9. So, as you know, this has been, government and local government, state government and local government have been aware of this impending Nangara Mound water crisis for many years. And in 2007, the Future of East Wanneroo report recommended that this particular area in the western portion of Naugup be rezoned for small lot rural subdivision. Since 2007, as you know, we've been advocating for that, for the government to enact its own recommendation. But unfortunately, as you know, especially administration, WAPC have rejected the draft local planning strategy small lot rules lifestyle proposal as inefficient. So they no longer see that as a viable, as an efficient way for future planning. They want urban. So in November, as you know, WAPC approved to progress the Carrabuda Urban Precinct, which is directly adjacent to the area we're talking about, which is west of Gibbs Road, adjacent to Lake Naoga. And that's changed everything. So it's a no-brainer that Lake Naoga should be included in the district structure plan and not neglected or isolated or cut off. And sustainable development is the best win-win solution for the area and a better future for all. Slide 10 shows that district structure plan. And as you can see, it makes no sense not to include Naoga into the district structure plan. It's like a coastal development not including the beach. Obviously, that is the main centrepiece and attraction and value adder for the whole area. It will increase property values for the whole area if you have access, if you have public open space, boardwalks, nature trails, bird watching platforms, cafes, restaurants, microbreweries, all enjoying that foreshore area and enhancing it. It will add enormous property value for the whole area. And of course, you'll have some high quality premium residential along the lakefront as you do on the coast. And it will create local employment opportunities and tourism and recreation and hospitality jobs if you do have cafes, restaurants, microbreweries along the foreshore and the public open space and the boardwalks. So slide 11 shows eco-friendly walkways that could be possible and obviously are occurring in Lake Joondalup and other lakes in the metropolitan area, and to enhance the natural assets and connect kids and families with nature. And the only way to make this happen, unfortunately, is investment. As you know, contributions from developers make these public open spaces a reality. So it could be a wonderful public open space and connect kids with nature. And it does also, as we were talking about before earlier, realise the real intent of the landscape enhancement zone, and that's for people to enjoy nature. So it is, investment is the solution for this area, and neglect would be a further disaster. And at the moment, the lake's kind of on life support, but as we know in East Wanneroo, when you draw on the local aquifer from agriculture, the water table rises and those lakes become rejuvenated. And that's the best thing, I think, for the lake. Slide 12. You know, this really could be a new Lake Joondalup, public open space, better future for the area. And certainly the landowners will share that vision. And, you know, it's been sad to see the lake retreat because of the Nangara Mound dropping. And so, as we said with East Wanneroo, the same thing will happen here with urban development. The water table will rise and the lake will be rejuvenated for all to enjoy. So it could be a Margaret River-style recreation, tourism and rural lifestyle precinct, partnering with the City of Wanneroo community and responsible development, sustainably enhancing and preserving the natural beauty. Slide 13. Sustainable development is a win-win. It's a jewel in the crown natural asset for the City of Wanneroo to enjoy. It's a win-win solution for the local community and farmers and the economy. And it will create a quality master plan community celebrating Lake Joondalup and embracing it and not ignoring it. So it will inject economic stimulus into the region, and it'll enable small lot farms to relocate after decades of hanging in there. Now, the district structure plan is for the district. It's not just for one or two developers with looking after their investors and their self-interests. The district structure plan and the local planning strategy is for the district and the local community. So it should embrace the wider area. Slide 14. I'd just like to say thank you for listening to this and for all your advocacy. We acknowledge your advocacy in the past, and we would like to partner with City of Wanneroo going forward. And we agree with the administration's comment in the draft local planning strategy that in light of the West Australian Planning Commission progressing the Carrabuda urban precinct, and the submissions received to the draft local planning strategy from the community, that the WA Planning Commission should consider investigating the future land use planning for North Wanneroo as part of the Perth Peel Health Check or the Metropolitan-wide Strategic Planning Framework, including the Nowagup area and Lake Nowagup, importantly. So this is too good an opportunity to miss, and I think we should embrace it, and I hope we can work together to make that a reality. Thank you very much for listening to me, and are there any questions?
Thank you very much, Mr Zagar. You're always welcome, and we thank you for making the trek out. Points of clarification on this deputation from council members. Councillor Huntley.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just to ask you, you did say that you considered small rural lots, 5 acres. Would you say that that is really the aim, the goal of this, is to get those small rural lots rather than make this urbanised and then find you've got 300 square metre lots around that lake?
Well, thank you, Councillor. Yes, as you know, we've been advocating for small lot rural subdivision, which was the West Australian Planning Commission's recommendation in 2007 with the Future of East Wanneroo report. We've been advocating for that since 2007. Unfortunately, as the draft local planning strategy points out, that suggestion was rejected by the West Australian Planning Commission because they no longer see rural lifestyle lots as efficient, basically. So they've gone off that model. But certainly I see that there could be scope for larger blocks in such a special area, and they would be very attractive, and I hope that's what happens, and it comes down to a good master plan.
And I expect there might be further opportunity. Is it specifically for Mr Zagar, or would it be directed to the administration when we deal with the report?
No, this will be specifically for Mr Zagar, as he is a resident there. Just another question. What would you say that the largest, because at the moment the block's around 20 acres plus, what would you say the largest block would be advantageous really for the fact that a lot of this needs rewilding, because obviously it's been dug up for farming and really the habitat's gone. So what would be the largest lots that you think would be acceptable in the area? So
I will allow it, but I just remind council members that points of clarification are to be made to specific statements that are made in the deputation. Mr Zagar, you are welcome to comment on that.
Sure, certainly. Look, as I said earlier, we've been pushing for the original Future of East Wanneroo intention for small lot rural subdivision around 5 acres, but unfortunately the West Australian Planning Commission is no longer entertaining that. So I can't speak for the state government and their planning officers. It really comes down to what they, will deem appropriate. But like I said, I think it's a great opportunity to have some larger blocks.
And I think there can be more questioning as to the state government and their response to the strategy when Mr Procone has the opportunity to speak to the report. Councillor Wright, is it a point of clarification for Mr Zagar?
Yeah, it is. Just in regards to your deputation, I guess, as a whole, I guess I'm just looking for what exactly are you asking from council in terms of, because I know you spoke about the Carrabuda district structure plan, which obviously we have no influence over, but I guess what are you exactly looking for in relation to, and I'm gathering it's the local Sorry, I've lost my thought in terms of the planning strategy. So what are you exactly, because that is contradictory to the deputation notes that we've received.
Sorry, I think I'm not sure. Let me clarify if there's some miscommunication. But originally, before the November meeting of the West Australian Planning Commission, where they agreed to progress the Carrabuda Urban Precinct, we were, as we have been since 2007, advocating for small lot rural subdivision as per the Future of East Wanneroo report. So now that this urban precinct has changed everything, and West Australian Planning Commission rejected small lot rural subdivision. So what we're saying is if a district structure plan and a local planning strategy has to take that into account, and that this area should be integrated. It should create access for any urban development. Imagine like Joondalup or Wanneroo having urban development a kilometre back from the lake, but not having any access to it. So we're just saying there should be a sensible, within the local planning strategy, there should be a recommendation that the district structure plan and the local planning strategy considers this, and the West Australian Planning Commission considers it. A district structure plan should include more than the developer's own land and their investors' land. It should include the district.
Okay. Thank you, Mr Zagar. Thank you for your deputation. We progress, unless there are any late deputations that I'm unaware of from the administration, there's just the 4. Okay, we progress on to item 4, reports. Declarations of interest by council members, including the nature and extent of which the interests are to be made at the commencement of the item. Declaration of interest forms are to be completed and handed to the Chief Executive Officer. And I note that declaration of interests are foreshadowed at briefing sessions and then ultimately made at ordinary council meetings. This evening we had a request from the administration to bring forward matters of confidentiality. However, given that there is attendance from members of the public, I believe about one particular item, I think it'd be most appropriate that we deal with that item first, so you have the chance to hear the administration introduce the report and have the chance to hear it receive questioning from council members. So just from the members of the public who are here, can you just raise your hand if you are here for the draft local planning strategy? Okay. Okay, so we'll progress with that item first, 4.1, final consideration of draft local planning strategy following public advertising. Mr Bracone is here, as Mr Mark Dixon is an apology this evening, and Mr De Vecchis is here as well. Mr Bracone, are there any introductory remarks you wish to make to the report?
Yes, good evening, Deputy Mayor and Councillors. Thank you. Yes, I would like to make some comments regarding item 4.1 on the agenda. And I'll just note that for the other items, which we will discuss later, I'm happy to take questions. So the local planning strategy, the draft local planning strategy is a landmark document for the city. It will guide future planning of the city to 2041 and guide the preparation of our new local planning scheme number 3, which will replace district planning scheme number 2. The local planning strategy, I'd go as far as saying, is one of the most significant planning documents produced by the city. And the process of preparing the local planning strategy commenced back in 2021, where there were several discussions with the elected members at council forums, and it ultimately resulted in council formally initiating preparation of the local planning strategy in April 2023. The draft document was then forwarded to the WAPC, who in January 2024 granted approval to the city to commence the advertising. Public consultation was undertaken over September and November last year, and that was undertaken by sending out approximately 2,500 letters to owners, occupiers of properties affected by some of the proposed actions. It was referred to state government agencies, developers and stakeholders active in the area. There were 3 drop-in information sessions held. A notice was placed on the city's website. Social media posts were made, and a media release was also issued. This resulted in 84 submissions, perhaps a small number of submissions given the extent of the consultation, but nevertheless a range of issues were raised with the city or with administration. I don't intend to discuss all of the matters, but one matter I do wish to discuss is, and has been touched on by some of the deputations, is the area of North Wanneroo and possible subdivision for the area. And as that's one of the areas that we received most submissions, we received 25 submissions, which is about 30% of all the submissions we received. Administration's view on this matter is, given the recent changes to water allocations made by the state government and the WAPC's recent decision to allow the preparation of a district structure plan for the Carabooda area to enable urbanisation and associated matters arising from these decisions, administration's view is that the state, or at least the WAPC, should consider the area for a future planning investigation area so that it can be looked at more comprehensively in a coordinated manner rather than an ad hoc manner. So a planning investigation area will enable a thorough review and understanding of the issues so that any decisions can be considered with all that information at hand. So the process of preparing the local planning strategy has been thorough and lengthy, and it's been subject to a lot of input from elected members, advice from the Department of Planning, and also input from a number of landholders, and certainly it's been informed by submissions that have been made during the consultation period. So it's what I would describe as a good, solid piece of work. I think there have been some positive comments, which I'm grateful for this evening. And I look forward to its eventual adoption by Council if that's what happens in a couple of weeks' time. And assuming that's what Council does, it will then be sent off to WAPC, where we'll seek their endorsement, final endorsement. The WAPC needs to make a decision within 60 days. So it's possible, depending if all the stars line up, that the city could have an endorsed local planning strategy by the end of July or sometime in August, but you know, that remains to be seen. Just a final point I'll make on the deputations that we've heard this evening. What I will say about the deputations is they're all seeking quite specific changes to the local planning strategy. And I think I mentioned earlier that the local planning strategy is a high-level document which provides high-level guidance and direction to the preparation of further documentation, such as the new local planning scheme number 3 and any associated policies. So I don't think it's appropriate that some of the requests that have been made are appropriate at this stage, but there are certainly, in particular with the deputations we heard about changing the property at Emerald Road, I think it is, from landscape enhancement to rural residential. That and Mr Zagar's deputation are both captured with the city's administration's recommendation that they are in planning investigation area. So I believe all those matters will be captured in that recommendation going forward. So at this point, I'd be happy to take any questions, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Broccone. Questions from council members. Councillor Miles.
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just one of my questions was obviously, and you have articulated and answered it in one way. Obviously, this is a high-level document, and we've had many discussions over the last year or so. And I do want to thank yourself, Mandy, and Emil that you had to go out there and, in some cases, visit each lot and try and understand what people's concerns were. With regard to the investigation area, if this document is approved by the Commission, as you say, hopefully sometime this year, can the city actually then enact the investigation area itself so we can actually get something moving?
Mr Broccone.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. The planning investigation area is something that needs to be prepared by the Department of Planning. Certainly, administration's intention is if this is adopted by Council in a couple of weeks, is that we intend to arrange a meeting with the department so that we can go through the strategy, explain to them any queries they may have, so that it might expedite its process through to the WAPC and with its recommendations. But planning investigation area documentation is prepared by the state, by the department, and certainly the city would be happy to participate.
Councillor Miles.
Yeah, thank you. I do want to also foreshadow an amendment for 2 weeks' time, and just for councillors' benefit, that is for, in this document, it also covers caravan, boat, trailer parking, and as we know, the state government's been quite petulant in not allowing that to happen on some of these rural areas that have no water. As Mr Zagar said, they are just barren wastelands out there, and some people have found a good way to obviously earn a living, but also assist our suburbs in getting, from what I understand, over 1,000 caravans off the street. So that's what that amendment is about, and it's basically requesting the Minister to step in on that particular issue. My other question, Deputy Mayor, it goes along the lines of, yes, I'm supportive of the investigation area. I think it's overdue, and if we have to do this document to get that one started, I'm happy to try and facilitate that as much as possible. But the other comment by Mr Free from about the Kingsway, the North Kingsway zoning changes to R60, isn't the Kingsway Centre already under a change of zoning because they're getting the high density already on that site?
Mr Briccone.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Kingsway is an activity centre, so it already has higher zoning possible. The area that Mr Free is referring to is immediately to the north of the centre, and most of that area is, I believe, coded R25, which is a low to medium density. So does that answer your question, Councillor?
It can do. I'll ask another question if that's okay, Deputy Mayor. I do have a couple of just small ones, nothing major.
Fire away.
Yeah, just the other one is part of the main document that we have for us tonight on page 19. It talks about the fact that over the next 16 years, we're going to have another 150,000 residents moving into our city, which basically is 60% of where we are today. That's working on the basis that we're going to be approving some 3,500 homes per year over 16 years, every year for 16 years. Is that about right?
Either Mr Briccone or Mr De Vecchis.
Yes, Deputy Mayor, that's approximately correct. Yeah.
Councillor Miles, you can continue. I'm not going to
sorry,
say do you have
I don't want to take up all everybody's time. The other one too is on page 43. It has reference to the Wanneroo Raceway precinct. Now, there has been a substantial change in that use, in the sense now that the state government wishes to move the V8 event into the city for other tourism benefits. How does that impact on what we've been attempting to do on the current raceway site when we are always referring to the fact that the V8 races are coming there?
Mr Briccone.
Thank you, through the Deputy Mayor. Well, I guess when the strategy was prepared, as I think I said at a council forum, this is a document prepared at a particular point in time, and things change quite rapidly, and that announcement was made recently. So the strategy hasn't really taken that into consideration. So I really can't comment on whether or not that will affect Wanneroo Raceway significantly or not. I imagine Wanneroo Raceway will still continue to operate as a raceway into the future, but I'd have to take that on notice to get any more information, but I don't know. I can't answer that any further.
Councillor Miles.
Yeah, thanks, Deputy Mayor. Yes, a moment in time. I thought that was a chocolate, actually. My other question, on page 239 of the document, of the actual policy document, you reference the likely impacts of housing getting closer to some of our existing farmlands out the back of East Wanneroo. So if you look at page 239 F on that document, obviously there's the impact of staging development in such a way, but you're also talking about there can be some impacts from odour, noise, spray drift, and the light, and also light spill in and around some of those areas, and that you will want to try and put in some sort of buffer, but you're not dictating what sort of buffer you want to put in. So is it like 50 metres or 100 metres, or is it just going to be a guess of the day?
Mr Broccone.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Sorry, Councillor Miles, page 239 on my agenda is relating to another item on the agenda. It's item 4.2 to do with the East Wanneroo local planning policy.
Oh, geez, okay. I'm moving on very fast, Paz.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I've had enough of this one.
Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Miles. Further questions from council members on 4.1. Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just one question from me around the housing element of the local planning strategy. I did write in a question for the administration around the housing targets, which obviously the administration has come back saying that there is some housing targets under the state planning framework. I guess I just want to understand where the particular target numbers are within the local planning strategy. In terms of what the City of Wanneroo has to meet, and is it clearly articulated in our public-facing documents?
Mr Broccone is currently checking his documents, so we'll just allow, and Mandy's there as well, we'll just allow the administration time to respond. Councillor Wright, do you have a specific page number where it may be referred to?
I'm looking at page 25 and 26, which covers population and housing, but there's no information around the specific target numbers.
Noted. There's no rush whenever the administration's ready. Just a response for Councillor Wright.
Sorry, thank you, Deputy Mayor, for indulging me. There are figures at the top of paragraph 6.1.2, Councillor, which talk about targets there, 27,920 homes. Is that the information you were seeking?
Yeah, thank you for that. So is there a particular breakdown in terms of what the city has planned for infill areas within the city? So that is there a breakdown of that 27,920 amongst the suburbs of where we are targeting infill, or is there any strategy around that within our planning strategy?
Thank you. Deputy Mayor, as you may be aware, there are infill areas that the city has progressed in the past, Wanneroo, Kundoola and Girraween. So they already have high densities and they're already targeted for increased infill. The difficulty that the city has faced really is that there's no uptake. There's very little uptake. So it's possible to do it. I think we've had maybe 600 over 6 years, which is very low. It's a question of finances, I understand. So it's possible to get the infill in a lot of areas of the city, but it's just not being taken up. What we're doing as part of the strategy, we are looking to expand some of the existing areas where infill can occur and adjoining suburbs and so forth. So the strategy allows it, the current scheme allows it, it's just not happening, and I think it's a financial question.
And not to muscle in on Councillor Wright's question, I think it was more around if the targets are not contained within this document, are they contained within some other document that the city has at a suburb or locality basis, rather than it just being for the district as a whole? I don't know if that was where you were leading.
Thank you, Deputy. No, we don't have a breakdown by suburb.
Okay, and at this point I'll note that an amendment has been foreshadowed by Councillor Miles, and therefore if the administration can reach out to the councillor and work on the preparation of that prior to the OCM. Further questions from council members on 4.1. Councillor Herridge.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So I did come this evening with no questions, but listening to the deputations and what's happening, I now have 6. So I hope that's okay. They should be short and sharp, but I might have been giving you some work for next OCM. So just in regards to the landscape enhancement zone, is it possible for councillors, because it's actually on page 86 proper, where it's in the strategy, it's not actually highlighted. It is in words, but not in a map. So can we possibly have a map of that actual landscape enhancement zone? In the document there as well, it also references a list of some businesses referred to that have been created since. Can we know who they are, possibly? And also the results from the 2016 engagement, if we can have those. Would be
Mr. Bracone?
amazing.
Yes, Deputy Mayor, we can arrange all that information.
Duly taken on notice. Proceed.
Thank you. And just in regards to Kingsway, being I know it quite well, can we have a specific area map of that as well, of where the specific is? Because it's obviously outside Kingsway Shopping Centre, it's above it. A lot of that is vacant land, but it's also residential. So if we can just see where they're actually talking about. And from what I understand, this is something that would normally occur at a couple of stages down. Can you just explain to us what would actually normally happen in that instance if we don't take this on board and make any changes?
Mr. Bracone.
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor. What administration is suggesting that we just need to follow a few steps. The applicant or the person who made, Mr. Free, who made the deputation, could, however, make a separate proposal to the city to recode that area, and it could be dealt with as an amendment to District Planning Scheme number 2.
Councillor Herridge.
Thank you. Just subsequent, that then is what you were just talking about with Girraween and Kundula, and doing that as a separate and making that infill.
Yes, that's one way of doing it, yes.
Further questions on 4.1? Councillor Miles.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Herridge just reminded me of something. Mr. Bracone, if the Commission doesn't approve the landscape enhancement component of the document, does that mean that the city would then have to roll all of those uses into rural so people can still do those in those rural areas?
Mr. Bracone.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yes, the department has indicated to us that it will not support the use of a landscape enhancement zone because it's not a model zone. So it's very likely that we will need to convert or revert to a rural zone. What administration is thinking is that we will then seek to apply a special control area layer on top of what is effectively the current landscape enhancement zone area to enable those uses to continue, or further uses to be able to be approved in the future.
Any further questions on 4.1? No. Therefore, we'll bring that item to a conclusion. So as I said earlier, the administration has requested that we bring forward confidential items. Now that is due to the fact that we will have external guests who need to be attending and participating in those sessions. So the request is that Council move into a confidential session to discuss items 8.1, 8.2, 8.3 and 8.4 under the terms of the Local Government Act 1995, Section 5.232. I don't believe I need a motion as standing orders do not apply, so it's at the discretion of the presiding member. So at this point in time, I'll note that the recording will cease and members of the public and the administration And council members, we'll just wait until we're officially on air to recommence. Excellent. Thank you. Council members, we're back on air. Mr Bracone and Mr Devekis have returned. The administration, I believe, indicated before that they'd introduced item 4.1 and were not making any introductory remarks to the other items. So I will begin with item 4.2, close of advertising, modifications to local planning policy 5.3, East Wanneroo local development contribution plan provisions. Councillor Miles, question.
Just a couple of questions. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. If I go back to what I was asking before when I got carried away, Mr Bracone, on 239, under F on that, it says obviously if there's any likely impacts to development may have on obviously farm use, there may have to be some sort of buffer put in place, but we aren't dictating what that buffer may be. Is it just going to be up to the will of the planner at the time?
Mr Bracone.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Thanks for your question, Councillor Miles. I'm not sure where there's reference to a buffer in Part F, but if I could just generally respond to this. This is not a part of the policy that we're actually amending. So it wasn't something that we're subject to change. What we're amending in this policy is introducing some provisions dealing with local developer contribution plans. And what this section is simply doing is just outlining the matters that need to be considered when a development application or a local structure plan is submitted, so that I guess an applicant is aware of what they need to submit, and as administration we know what we need to take into consideration above anything else.
Councillor Miles.
Yeah, thank you. That may be the case, but the policy's before us, so I want to ask questions of the policy. So you might want to go back and change it for next week or the week after. The other part, and whilst I am using attachment 1 as my reference point, I know you may have tweaked some in the other document somewhere on. The other question I have, it is to do with wetland management plans. And it does state on page 245 that, and I think it's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, I think it's the 8 dot point under 7.5, and it does state that the city would have to do wetland management plans. But my understanding is that the state may have taken that out of the district DCP. Does that not should that not then be reflective of this policy? Should we not be taking that out?
Mr Bracone. Mr Devekis.
That section there is specifically referencing local development contribution plans and the requirement for them to take into account any foreshore management plan and wetland management plans that are not covered by the district development contribution plan. I guess if the district development contribution plan doesn't cover the foreshore management plan, then a local development contribution plan would have to cover it, is what the policy position is currently.
Nick, if you could just turn the microphone a little bit towards yourself. It's very difficult to hear that end answer. Councillor Miles.
Yeah, I'm the deaf one, Nick. I understand what you're saying, if it's not in the district, but I guess then that's, rather than the district paying as a whole, we're then going to say to a local precinct, well, you've got to pay for it. My understanding from what I've heard from, I guess, the development community is that the Department of Water is not going to handle that. It's going to be given to the Water Corporation to manage that whole scheme. So I'm just concerned that if we leave that in place, we're going to then put a burden on developers at a local developer contribution scheme, which could, just take too much.
Mr Bracone.
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Actually, my understanding is what the department is doing is removing the need for the groundwater management as opposed to the wetland management. So I think it's a separate matter you're referring to.
The other question I had, and I had brought it up before because I'm not comfortable with the East Wanneroo road reserve widths. I don't think you two were in that chair when I was asking multiple questions of Mr Bowring and Mr Dixon, who's probably at home listening and probably smiling at this very point. But the issue I have is on that, if you go to page 266, and it depicts what the ideal situation would be. You've got a medium in the middle, you've got centre lighting in the middle. The issue I have is I've got this very same issue now in Banksia Grove at the moment. Once those trees get to a certain height, those lights do no longer are any good on those medium strips. And we've now got some very dark areas which are causing antisocial behaviour. So I'm just trying to understand why administration or planning prefers that idea and not maybe street lighting down the side. My second part of that question, Mr Brocconi, is, and you're the acting man tonight, is I'm sure it costs more for the infrastructure team to manage those lights down the centre of a roadway because they have to shut a lane off, and the cost of shutting lanes off costs a lot of money. So I'm just trying to understand why we would have lighting down the medium as depicted in that drawing on page 266.
First, Mr Brocconi, anything from yourself in response to that? But Mr Singh did look very excited to answer that question as well. So, Mr Brocconi, you to start.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Some of these drawings, I can't recall precisely which, are actually taken from the East Wanneroo District Structure Plan document. The width of the roads wasn't proposed to be widened for all of the roads. It's only some of them. This is, I think, one of the drawings out of the East Wanneroo District Structure Plan. So that's the document prepared by the state government. That's just for clarification on that point. But I will hand to Mr Singh to answer those other questions, if I may.
Mr Singh.
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor. My understanding is if lights on the median, you are basically, it's basically 50% infrastructure in the median. If you're putting lights on both sides, you probably will have multiple number of poles and the cabling infrastructure running on both sides of the road. So in the median, there is a single infrastructure. In many cases, poles won't be too far offset in the verge either. So to do maintenance by Western Power, they probably will have to close the outer lane in that case.
Councillor Miles, any further questions from yourself?
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to get them all out, Deputy Mayor. I'm not happy with the responses, but I'm not going to challenge them. The other one is on page 393. It says at the top there in the, and this was brought up in this chamber, but unfortunately the fearless advice from planning. No, I'm still talking about.
It may help, Councillor Miles. This report is starting on 233 and the next one starts on 390.
Okay.
So if you're anything past 390...
I'm on Amendment 232. I just figured I would go through, Deputy Mayor.
I might ask the other council members if they have any other questions on 4.2 and then we will certainly get to this very important matter. No other questions on 4.2. Therefore, Councillor Miles, the floor is back to you, 4.3.
Thank you. I just had my lesson again. So 4.3, on page 393, Mr Brocconi, it does say that, I guess for me, that this is an amendment because there was the unintended consequence of Amendment 172. It comes back to some of the amendments that we're doing. We were just talking earlier in regard to the 41 from the residents up in Carabooda. It seems that we're trying to be too sometimes narrow in what we're trying to achieve instead of being broader. And in this case, we now have to do another amendment to put something back in that was unintendedly removed. That's the way I read that on Amendment 172. So I'm just wondering whether or not we're just being a bit overzealous on some of our, I guess, planning policy and some of our changes to our overall scheme that we're working towards.
Now we've entered the realm of approval services. I think Mr. Devekis might respond to that.
Yes. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Amendment 172 was simply aligning our scheme with the model provisions, and a consequence of that was then having to remove the business zone from the scheme and replacing it with either the commercial zone inside of an activity centre or a service commercial zone outside of an activity centre. As this is out-of-centre development, it fell into that service commercial zoning, and as a result, some of the land uses that exist on site are no longer conforming or permissible in that area. When you're doing a scheme amendment that changes an entire scheme and aligns it with the model provisions, this is a consequence of that, and that can happen. And I guess the administration's view is moving forward when we have something like this occur, that we make sure that we can accommodate the landowner and facilitate a land use change such as being proposed in this amendment.
Further questions? Councillor Miles.
Yeah, thank you. No, I understand what you're saying, Nick. The issue I have with it, it's more time and money that the city has to resource because of the unintended consequence of removing it. And I guess for me, whether it's an outer centre or a centre, they're all the same. They're shops, and people just expect to go to one shop, whether it's a bike shop, a donut shop, or whatever. It's a shop, and I think some of our planning and some of our business uses, I think, need to be a bit more broader, so we don't have to keep having these complete changes. My other comment here was on page 524. Oh, okay, no, that's Kirsty.
Okay. I think you were just trying to deal with the entire agenda all at once, Councillor Mole. Okay. 4.3, we're still on. Councillor Herridge.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just a quick one from me. 396 is the subject site map. Can we possibly make it a little bit clearer for the OCM where the site actually is, please? Thank you.
Mr. Devekis, that's been noted. Yep. Any other questions on 4.3? No. 4.4, consideration of amendment number 224, which is beginning on page 441 of the agenda. No. So that brings us to the end of planning and sustainability. Thank you very much, gentlemen. And we now go over to assets. So Mr. Singh joins us this evening, and Mr. Barker's here as well. There are 3 reports on the assets portfolio. 2 had confidential attachments that have been dealt with, so now we're only dealing with the public-facing reports. Mr. Singh, do you wish to introduce any of the items?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. No, I don't wish to speak on any of the items, but happy to take questions if council members have any.
Thank you, Mr. Singh. We'll start from the top. 4.5, petition PT04-02/25, Lansdale Primary School parking issues, beginning on page 492 of the agenda proper. Questions from elected members? Councillor Herridge.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just to foreshadow a declaration for next week, I do have a couple of questions, just looking at my notes. This is something that I've been across for a very long time because my kids went to school here, was on the Roadwise Committee. Just in regards to admin and the Mayor catching up with the school principal, I didn't know that that was something that occurred until the petition came to me, and we had it at council, so we had no knowledge of that. Do we know what the outcome of that meeting was? Because that was actually before the petition came to us. It was quite some time.
Mr. Singh.
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Look, that meeting did happen August 2024, so much earlier, before the petition came in. The feedback from the team is that at that particular on-site meeting, the on-site parking issues were discussed, and everybody agreed that the possibility for including a pre-primary kiss and ride facility as part of the future upgrade of the school. So school principal did acknowledge that one.
Councillor Herridge, I think you had further questions?
No, I think I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Okay. Any further questions on this particular item? I was just going to ask this item, in addition to one that's in Ms Davis' directorate, have the lead petitioners been notified that the matter has come before council?
Yes, Deputy Mayor, the lead petitioner was advised that report is being discussed today at briefing session and will be considered at next OCM.
Any further questions on this report? No, therefore we go to 4.6, Tender 25051, Fleet Workshop Change Room Upgrades, and we've dealt with the confidential report, so this is the public-facing report, beginning on page 496 of the agenda proper. Any questions from elected members? No indication, so go to 4.7. Contract 19251, supply and lay bituminous surfacing and associated civil works, final 2-year contract extension beginning on 5/04. Any questions from elected members? Councillor Herridge.
Sorry, Deputy Mayor, I did have a question just on 4.6. You went a little bit quick for me.
That's okay, 4.6.
I just wanted to check within the recommendation, we're accepting, authorising and listing funds. Are we actually approving the item as well? Have we missed a section?
Mr.
Just to
Singh.
clarify.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. No, we haven't missed that one. This is the way, timing-wise, the report is coming through. Given that this project is listed in the draft LTFP, it's not listed in the approved LTFP, but it has been listed in the draft capital works program for next financial year, which council members have seen at budget workshop too. So that's been mentioned on page 503 above the recommendations. The reason the way it's worded is that council can consider the listing as part of the budget consideration, but in acknowledging that by awarding this tender, that we are committing to that expense.
Okay, so further questions on 4.6 before we go back to 4.7. So 4.6, Councillor Wright.
Yep.
Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I have to withdraw a declaration of interest for item 4.7. It was supposed to be for item 4.6. So just flagging that for the OCM.
Noted, and will be declared in 2 weeks' time. Further questions on 4.6? Back to 4.7. Any questions beginning on page 504 of the agenda? No. That brings us to the end of assets. Thank you, Mr. Singh, Mr. Barker. We now progress on to community and place. Ms. Davis. Ms. Davis, you have 2 items on the agenda this evening, 4.8 and 4.9. Do you wish to introduce either of the items or happy to take questions?
Good evening, Deputy Mayor. We have responded to several questions on notice, so we won't introduce and take questions if required.
Noted, thank you. Questions from elected members on 4.8, response to PTO 3-0225, Frangipani Park Marangaroo request for upgrades. Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I just did have one question in regards to why this sits within the Community in Place Directorate, considering that majority of the requests for furniture and additional items usually goes to assets.
Ms. Davis, or alternatively Mr. Singh. Mr. Singh looks very anxious to answer again. Turn on that microphone.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. All eyes were on me, so I'll respond. Generally, all the requests for improvements or new community facilities are investigated and reviewed by our community facilities team, which sits under Community in Place Directorate.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Councillor Wright?
I'll say yes.
Okay. Councillor Parker.
I think this question might go to Mr. Singh as well, because I know that I've worked with him for a couple of years on something. I have noticed that the residents requested fencing for safety, and the reason that it's not going to be given is because we only fence a playground if it backs onto a main road. I completely disagree with this at the moment, and I don't know if this is an issue at the park. At the moment, we have motorised bicycles, battery operated, that are probably going a lot faster than the cars that are actually on the road. So if the playground backs onto that park, for example, there's Fred Stubbs Park, that is a danger. Is that something we can look at if that is the situation at this park?
I'll go to Ms Davis in the first instance, given you're the responsible officer, but then if it needs to go to Mr Singh, and therefore, so Ms Davis.
Thank you through the chair. Thank you, councillor. And the advice that has been provided to me on this item is that the fence is not a standard provision for a neighbourhood park, that those safety issues have been addressed in making that recommendation. It would be considered an over-provision if a fence for a neighbourhood park would be. In the policy, these neighbourhood parks are designed for walking and to promote pedestrian and cycling, their local networks and things like that, so that's why that safety risk isn't identified. Staff have also led me to the fact that there have been no apparent risks that would support the installation of a fence. There have been no relevant safety issues or concerns raised with the city in relation to the playground at the park. And additionally, the location maps identify that on page 510 and 511 of the agenda identify which parts of the park do back onto the road, and also that 80% approximately of the park is currently fenced for nature conservation currently.
Councillor Parker, I think you still have your hand up, so Councillor Parker.
Yeah, sorry. So, just don't know how to quite put this. So, is there a pathway that connects to the park itself? I'm not saying, sorry, and I don't want to get into debate, I'm not saying fencing the whole area, but just the area that the park actually joins to the pathway, if it does, just to stop people being, or little kids, to be able to run onto that pathway where the danger is. I know that Mr Singh could probably give an example of what has happened previously if that was allowed, but my question is, does that park actually back onto a pathway? I can't really see it in the map.
I think building on the councillor's question, then perhaps for our OCM report, if we could have the map details the sort of broader surroundings of the area, but a more detailed aerial map would assist. And from my understanding, there is a footpath that goes around the park, and there's also a footpath that connects various components internally of the park. Ms Davis, is there anything else you wanted to add in response to that question?
No, thank you, Deputy Mayor, but we can definitely take on notice to provide some more detailed maps of that.
Thank you.
Councillor Seif.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'm just having a look at the map now on my phone, and I can see Gabby Way and Bloodwood Drive, and at the end of Bloodwood Drive is the primary school, which might make that road quite busy. So my question is, has the city done any traffic measurement assessments on either of those roads at any point in time? If so, when, and what was the outcome?
Mr Singh.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I would have to take that on notice. I think normally assessment on these kind of streets wouldn't qualify under local area traffic management policy, but I'll check.
Thank you. Further questions? Councillor Huntley.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I've got two questions. The first one is there any way you could find out how much a fence would cost to go around that little playground? And the second question is, you actually said that it's not a requirement on these playgrounds to have a fence. In fact, it's almost an overkill on the playground side or in these parks. But as we obviously are going to expand and there are going to be more kids and it is going to get very busy, it might be well wise that we do actually start to consider whether we fence off these playgrounds, especially with dogs, especially if we don't let them off the lead anywhere. We're going to have quite a few frustrating dogs.
We'll need to frame this into a question, Councillor Huntley.
So my question is it that we don't put playground fences in because it's a state policy or a federal policy, or is it something that it's just a local policy that we adopt?
Ms Davis.
Through the chair, and thank you for those two questions. The first one being we can do some estimated costs and provide that information in the changes to reports section for the costing of a fence. The second question, it is Council's LPP 4.3 Public Open Spaces policy. That specifically says a fence is not standard provision for playgrounds on neighbourhood parks. In working with staff to identify what sort of questions might come up tonight, there are 3 fenced dog exercise parks, Heath Park, Edgar Griffiths and Kingsway, and fenced parks that might be of interest to council. We've got Warradale, which is a district level playground, so that has a fenced area because the identified risk was water. Fred Stubbs is a neighbourhood park. It is a busy road, so there was a risk, but however there is also a decision of council because that was outside the policy. And Rotary Park and say Riverlinks Park where there is water as well, so there is a risk and hence there's a fence.
Further questions? Councillor Seif.
Thank you, Chair. You might need to take this on notice, administration, but what is considered a busy road? How many vehicles, speed limits? What's the definition for that?
I think that might go over to Mr Singh, and it might be around the road classification itself, with local, distributor, etc.
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor, there's a road hierarchy which we follow. This particular road is like a residential road. If you look at the Frangipani Loop, I think traffic volumes will be maybe 200 to 300 vehicles a day maximum. So normal capacity is about 3,000. So this will be much lower. I'm just speculating here, but I don't think we'll have the traffic numbers for that particular road anyway. We don't do traffic counts at that level. So we can still look at that one. But looking at the aerial plan, the playground seems to be about 30 meters away from the edge of the road. So the example which Director Davis gave, Fred Stubbs, was basically about 4 meters from the edge of the playground, 4 to 5 meters. So we went back and did fencing just for a short section to prevent any risk emerging from that side where kids playing in the playground run toward the road. So that was the main purpose. It's not fully fenced, it's only fenced on one side to prevent any runoff from the playground toward the road.
Further questions? Councillor Herridge.
Thank you, Deputy Chair. I was just looking at the replacement of the soft fall rubber. It's got an asset rating of 6, but it does mention fair to poor condition, and we don't have that estimated for review for...
Anything to do with asset rating, I think, would probably be best suited to Mr Singh.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Generally, that will be the case. If condition rating is 6, probably we will have another 2 to 3 years left of life left in that one. We do have a surface replacement program, so it will fall in that one in 27-28.
Any further questions? I might have a go now. Director, I appreciate this may need to be taken on notice. You mentioned specifically that there was no safety or reports around the playground. Could the report focus at the OCM on if there's been any complaints of antisocial behaviour at the park? Because I believe there have been. I believe even Councillor Wright had to do a ranger visit that specifically focused on antisocial behaviour at that park. So could that please be factored into the report for the OCM?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and yes, we will also include that in the changes to report section.
Second question is similar to the one asked of Mr Singh. Can I confirm that the petitioner, the lead petitioner, would have been notified that the matter is coming before council and therefore had the opportunity to do a deputation and is aware that they can ask public questions at the OCM?
Thank you, yes, we will ensure that as well.
And then the final question from myself, I think my colleagues are focused on the fence. I'm more focused in on the fact that the city's recommendation is that it's supporting the drink fountain and the picnic shelter, but it's agreeing to put it in an LTFP that is 20 years long. So does the city at this stage have any recommendation of where it's slotting it in? Are you slotting the drink fountain in year 1, year 2, or all the way at year 18? That's where I'm sort of questioning, because that may foreshadow an amendment.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'll take that one on notice and provide that in the changes to reports.
So I will foreshadow an amendment and I'll work with my good ward councillor and the administration to have something prepared by the next meeting, subject to that response. Are there any other questions on this particular item? No. That brings us to the end of community and place. Thank you, Ms. Davis. Where am I? Oh, yes, 4.9. I was too keen to just deal with the South Ward matter. 4.9. Any questions from elected members? Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I did circulate some questions before and I was majority happy with the responses that came back, and I know the Director has taken on notice to recheck those internal policies and strategies that we have. I just did have one out of query that I was interested in on page 554. There's a chart in there from the from DFES around bushfire summary of ignitions. I'm just curious as to how a bushfire starts from an animal, because all of them made sense to me except for the animal one, and there was one in 23 and 24.
Ms. Davis.
Through the chair, thank you, councillor. I will definitely take that one on notice and provide a response.
Further questions on 4.9? Councillor Miles.
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor. My question, you might want to take this on notice. On page 528, Director Davies, in that top second paragraph, it refers to our Chief Bushfire Control Officer. Who currently is that person? The other one is the Community Emergency Services Manager. Who is that one? Also, it does obviously, this particular policy is under the direct control of the CEO, but obviously delegated to all of those people. So I'm keen to understand who they are that's acting on council's responsibility in it. So can we maybe just get an update on who all those people are in that section?
Ms. Davis.
Thank you. Through the chair, so the city's Chief Bushfire Control Officer and the SESM are the same person. That is the shared role that we do have with DFES, which is Daniel Heppenstall.
Further questions? Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Sorry, I did have one additional question that I had as well. So on page 528, it mentions that the BRM plan process sits with the City of Wanneroo CEO. Is there any requirement that the council needs to endorse this document, or has it been brought to us as more of a courtesy in terms of for noting purposes?
Ms. Davis.
Through the chair, there is a requirement for council to endorse this, and as an endorsed document, that provides us the ability to attract the mitigation. Around
including the signature of the mayor in that particular document. I guess noting that when we do planning documents and other things that require certification from council, what proof in this document, how would they know it was certified by council?
Ms. Davis.
Thank you. Through the chair. So the council minutes actually provide that certification, and that gets submitted through to the Office of Bushfire Risk Management as part of the endorsed plan.
Councillor Herridge.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. I may be asking a little bit outside of the scope of the item, so tell me if I'm wrong and I'll take it offline. It's just in regards to, I had quite the discussion 516 of the reserves and the whole. The estimated cost to me I thought was quite centred around, are we at industry standards for specific burning? Because I'm pretty sure we commit to adequate, or is there something that we can do to get us to an industry standard if it's not? And how much does council need to provide to get to that point?
Ms Davis.
Thank you, Councillor, and through the Chair, I will take the question on notice largely because of its technical nature, but however provide you the assurance that this plan is reviewed annually and those risks ratings is also a concern as well that we're aware of.
Okay. And we now move to corporate strategy and performance. Ms Jennings. Ms Jennings, of the two items that are before us this evening.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I would like to, if I may. So I'm talking to the capital changes which start on page 590 of the agenda into the financial year. The first tooth comb before we finalise it for the next meeting. Recurring program for new computer business, 100,000. That's going to be coming down to 92,000 additional. And bottom of the page, 4616, PR 461. There are two more items that have come up that will be added to that list. Court, Girraween Hub Precinct redevelopment, some fund reserve, excuse me. And lastly, there's PR 4619, which is renewal of IT network infrastructure, coming a bit higher than was originally estimated. So we need an additional 290, which was requested last meeting or the meeting before. To take questions, Deputy Mayor.
So, item 4, questions from council members. No, I'll just note that Councillor Bedworth, who's an apology this evening, sent through a number of questions. Ms Jennings, can I just confirm that the council has now been able to receive those responses?
But I'll circulate it to all councillors and yourself.
Thank you, Ms Jennings. Any further questions on 410? Councillor Wright.
Sorry, Deputy Mayor. Just on page 500, where our actual expenditure forecast crosses over the revised budget, was there any particular reason? Was it something we're bringing forward or the ARC related?
That escalation. Thank you.
Payments for the period to 31st of March 2025, beginning on page 602 of the Agenda Proper. Directorate will be part of the Agenda Proper for the OC. Now to Chief Executive Office, Governance and Legal, 4.12, Amendment to Delegation 6.1, Policy Review Committee, beginning on page 679 of the Agenda. General Counsel will speak to this item. Ms Coles.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So the item before you is relating to the delegation for the Policy Review Committee following Council's decision back in March 2025 to amend the terms of reference for advice from WALGA. We're just taking the opportunity to realign the numbering in the delegation register under the Local Government Act. So you'll see that this will result in the delegation number change from 6.1 to
1.12, beginning on page 679.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'm just a little bit confused. So I'd just like some clarity around page 682 and 683, just to make sure that I have it right with what we're doing. So 682 has that we're removing major revision of existing policies from that part where it actually isn't highlighted. It's not there.
Ms Coles.
Because it is in the terms of reference under delegated authority.
Ms Coles.
Thank you for the question. Condition on the delegation, which we're removing because the committee will now be 83.
Thank you, Ms Coles.
Thank you.
There's a late report, but I'll do the next bit first. Item 5, motions on notice. The following motion on notices will be provided at Ordinary Councillor Kutsia, Traffic Calming Measures, Parkland Drive, Yanship. And can I just ask perhaps for the council members who've worked to draft those motions in consultation with administration, if they're ready prior to the circulation of the OCM agenda Can the administration send those out just to provide maximum time to be able to read the report and ask any questions or points of clarification?
Yes, we can, Deputy Mayor. And I guess the other opportunities as councillors are working through those documents themselves, and this has certainly happened over the last couple of months, socialising them within the group as well, so there's no surprises on the night.
Okay, which then brings us to item 6, late reports. At 6.2, we've already discussed that the intent is to bring the report proper to us at the OCM. However, we have been provided with 6.1, submission, public notice of Chief Executive Officer KPIs and online registers. This was circulated under supplementary briefing papers, and I believe, Ms Coles, is there any introductory remarks you wish to make?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just briefly, so the items to confirm the city's feedback on the draft local government regulations amendment regulations 2024 and to provide an approved submission on behalf of the city to the Department of Local Government. So unfortunately, the city will not be able to comply with the WALGA submission date because that's quite a bit earlier than the department's one, but we're looking at the CEO matters, so CEO selection panel, the CEO recruitment, termination and certification, and the CEO KPIs becoming public documents. And then the regulations require the city to have several online registers to be published. So we've got the leasing register, the grants and sponsorship register, development application register, and goods and services register. So we've undertaken an internal process to consult with the service units in those areas and gathered their feedback on the concerns. Obviously, the major concern is in relation to the privacy provisions and how that's going to affect, obviously, having our lease register with information that they're proposing on there, and a very similar situation with goods and services.
Thank you, Ms Coles. As the report's been provided, I give the opportunity now for any questions on item 6.1. No questions? Okay, we progress on. Item 7, public question time. There are no members of the public who are still joining us, but they will have the opportunity to ask questions at the Ordinary Council meeting in 2 weeks' time. We've dealt with all items of confidential, so then we progress to item 9, date of the next meeting. The next Ordinary Council meeting has been scheduled for 6 p.m. on the 27th of May 2025 to be held at Council Chambers Civic Centre, 23 Dundebar Road, Wanneroo. And item 10, closure. Thank you for your attendance. I now declare the agenda briefing session closed at 9:21 p.m.